Consciousness is a state of being sentient, aware, and reactive of one's surroundings, encompassing thoughts, emotions, and sensations. Factors like intelligence, living conditions, mental and physical health, and societal indoctrination determine the extent to which external factors dictate one's inner world. For example, in poorer environments, one's needs would take over, like food, water, or shelter. Your survival instincts would be put in place. You're animalistic. It's like the reptilian versus the human part of the mind. The reptilian is base survival instincts, the fight or flight response, hunger, thirst, territoriality, prioritizing immediate safety over long-term logic. Whereas the human mind should be more chivalrous. Things like shelter, food, and water aren't the main priority. They're essential, yes, but aren't things that should dictate one's mind. Let's use Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs to better explain human consciousness. From base instinctual needs, you move on to personal security, income, property, and family. It's an extension of survival, but it's more chivalrous and less chaotic. There are still basic needs. Then we move on to love and belonging. We seek relationship through friends, partners, family. We want intimacy, a sense of connection. When we feel safe, our social needs for validation come into play. This tribal sense of connection advances from survival security to social security, leading to our next stage, self-esteem. This is where you are not only satisfied with being a part of a social group or community, but want to pursue the higher ranks, to be respected as an important member, reaching goals and aspirations that would better your life and make you feel more fulfilled. You feel status, strength, recognition, and freedom, maybe a bit egotistical. And then the final stage is self-actualization. Core needs are met and you seek the best version of yourself, to be the most complete and authentic version. We seek to act with our highest purpose and intention. Now, in my opinion, this diagram is quite the blanket statement, where it doesn't really acknowledge other factors that come into play when ascending these barriers, and automatically assumes that one has the best intentions in mind. However, it's clearer in indicating the average essentials that one's mind would be focused on. When we ascend these barriers, we become more sophisticated and chivalrous, almost like we weren't solely built with the intent for survival, like most animals are, but with the intent to experience more impactful meaning, to seek more realized connections and aspirations. Survival was never the final blueprint for the human being. We can rise above all of that, where animals are biologically limited to only survival. They are creatures, whereas we are beings. Their potential ends there, whereas ours ends here. It seems like a lot of intent behind our existence to understand and comprehend so much meaning. Our potential doesn't end at survival. We can question existence, seek truth, create philosophy, pursue morality, and contemplate the nature of reality itself. It suggests that there is deeper intent behind human consciousness, an invitation to pursue meaning beyond the physical world. It's almost like we don't belong to this world, but something beyond us. Maslow's pyramid doesn't only end at self-actualization. He later proposed a final stage called self-transcendence, where an individual moves beyond the ego and starts seeking union with something greater than ourselves, another part of the mind, a deeper layer, your spiritual mind. This is the maximum level of consciousness that one can attain. There's still a spectrum on this level, but regardless, this is union, or the beginning of union, with the true core behind your being, the cosmic energy that is your soul, your eternal state. Reaching this level involves a process of spiritual purification, and the start of this process involves diminishing the ego. In spiritual terms, the ego is the illusion, the mask. The ego is the idea that you are defined by identity, status, possession, or social validation. It's a part of the mind that constantly compares, competes, fears judgment, and seeks external recognition. The ego ties our sense of worth to temporary things, reputation and wealth, attraction, power, and control. When ascending the level of needs, having an ego will be the drive behind your excess. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to have an ego, but they can make you fall into the traps of the toxic ego. It's all about maintaining self-awareness and remembering that you're just a thing that exists, to become more aligned with your truest form behind the ego. I think it is quite impossible to be in touch with completely all of it, but it's possible to maintain a good balance. When the consciousness is dominated by ego, the soul becomes buried beneath layers of desire, fear, and attachment. Spiritual growth requires losing these attachments. This means gradually detaching from impulses such as materialism, lust, anger, envy, insecurity, and constant emotional reactivity. It doesn't mean suppressing emotion, but rather not being controlled by it. These are your animalistic, biological, and egoistic impulses, all things that cloud your free will. Materialism anchors the mind to the physical world. Lust reduces soulful connection to biological impulse, and anger clouds clarity. Envy creates comparison, insecurity, and traps the self in fear of judgment, and these stages keep consciousness orbiting around the body rather than expanding beyond it. As these attachments weaken, consciousness becomes quieter, clearer, and more receptive. You begin to feel an overwhelming sense of peace. Through this process, individuals begin to experience the deeper core of their existence, the soul, and awareness becomes more attuned to its beauty, its interconnectedness, and sense of unity with the greater universe. Eastern philosophies like Buddhism or Hinduism offer a clear structure behind achieving heightened states of consciousness like enlightenment, or more in touch with your soul, and from there, your soul's calling to its original source. A clear code behind the subconscious that helps you experience the core of your existence, your soul, unleashed from the human vessel's biological impulses and more in tune with the universe. These spiritual truths echoed through countless religions and philosophies that reveal the framework that we exist upon. You have to realize the themes that all of these religions and philosophies have in common, the spiritual teachings of them. Think of the soul as the original consciousness. The brain isn't the source of awareness, it's more of the computer that channels and restricts its consciousness to the physical world. As your level of consciousness expands, you become more connected to the fire within that powers it. Through this understanding, the subconscious begins to reveal its deeper connection to the soul and the spiritual realm. The subconscious mind becomes more sensitive to patterns, intuition, and forms of awareness that extend beyond ordinary perception. It becomes a lot more interconnected with collectiveness. Dreams of the future are a good start. Ones that occur, then specifically happen the very next day, or the very next moment in fact. That feeling isn't just deja vu, it's a glimpse of your interconnected subconscious. And other dreams that are more of an insight on what you could potentially inherit if you stay on a good spiritual track, happening even a year or more after you've dreamt it. I've had shared dreams before too. Two people interacting on another plane of existence, communicating beyond the physical world. The more you detach to this world, the more you're able to connect with higher planes of existence. Your soul is seeking its home. Things like astral travel or astral projection are easily attainable. You're able to temporarily ascend to higher realms, no longer constrained to the physical world. I've had dreams of interpreting thoughts and expressions that other people have had of me. Interpreting consciousness. Your mind has inherited this field of awareness, this metaphysical playground that has knowledge of the future and insight on external knowledge about others or other things, hidden from the waking eye. It mixes around in its collective consciousness that we all share, that transcends time and space, once again revealing that we are spiritual beings connected to the infinite world instead of the finite. But I have to say here that a lot of my experiences, specifically the shared dreaming part, and maybe a few ultra-specific dreams that have or have yet to happen, were only possible to me through Islam. Expanding upon the spiritual foundation and combining it with Islam, I had very specific, poetic, and interesting dreams when I first prayed in Sujood, the day I first reverted to Islam, and the day I first prayed 5 times a day. A glimpse into what this framework can get me. Like, this isn't just, base vanilla spirituality. Like, you might have to add an Islamic DLC there, But nonetheless, it still wouldn't be possible without the base spirituality. You have to understand the spiritual world first, and then choose what you associate it with. A lot of people automatically associate spirituality with religion, but you don't have to. Not yet, at least. It's all about understanding spirituality, that we are not only connected to our flesh first, and then you can associate religion if it makes sense to you. But you don't necessarily have to. No, I think you should, but there are so many different beliefs. But we are all unified in this truth, that we have a soul, and that we have means to experience it. They want you to think that you're only connected to your flesh, to keep you in this matrix, suppressed to the full nature of your spiritual being. The reason they want you hooked on porn, always consuming, drinking, doing drugs, to smother your inner world, always reactive to the external world, consuming and pursuing its pleasures, is because they want you trapped, constrained to the material world, and deafened to your universal calling. The reason for the human spirit seeking to return to that upper world is that its origin is from thence, and that it is of angelic nature.